Hey y'all, we're gonna get into this last episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville called Being Lady-like. This was the most unladylike tea I have ever seen. And I wanna know where Ms Wanda is now. I know I've been talking about Destiny, but I wanna know where Ms Wanda is, because she would have been a great fit for this tea. And make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe on this video. So Mel goes to Tiffany's house, and I cringed as soon as I saw who opened up the door, because Mel says that she has some baby stuff for her, and after seeing Mel and Tiffany get into it at the spa day, she wanted to check on her because she's pregnant and she wanted to invite her to the tea. So Tiffany asked Mel how life's been. Mel says she's been busy. Tiffany's like, when are you not busy? And Mel is like, yeah, that's why she was excited about the spa day. And Tiffany was kind of like, were you? Like making faces like that wasn't nothing to be excited about. And Mel says she was until she heard all the B bombs and the F bombs. And she's like, oh no. And I'm just thinking, girl, you act like you ain't never cursed at a function before. Get the fuck up on out of here. Mel says she works too hard to be associated with this, that kind of behavior. And that's not what they want to give off. And then Mel continues to basically say that, what can she do to help with communication and stuff. And I'm just thinking, you are the last person to help anybody with anything, considering you still have baby daddy drama going on over there. Like, if you can't communicate with Martell, what makes you think you can communicate with a whole bunch of other group of ladies? It is only now because the producers are probably telling you, Melody, you need to film with somebody other than your damn self in the mirror, because she done burned so many bridges, don't nobody want to film with her. That was Mel's way to segue into inviting Tiffany to the tea party. And Tiffany's like, oh, another group event? Like, she's too good for group events when that's what's keeping her messy ass on the show. Didn't we first see her at Destiny's group event for her birthday? Her being messy about Monster and Liberica. Oh, okay. So, bitch, don't act like just because you got a baby in your stomach, you too good for group events. You the messiest bitch on this show. I can't stand Tiffany. Oh, my gosh. Mel says that there'll be someone there overseeing the party and everything like that. And then she asks Tiffany, what does she think? And then Tiffany says she thinks it's a good idea and that she hopes everyone can come with the open mind. And then Tiffany says that she left the spa day feeling like her blood pressure was high, and she allowed Kiki to pull her down to her level, and she didn't feel like herself. And Melody was kind of just nodding in agreement and stuff like that. Tiffany says that she met Kiki where she was at and she shouldn't have done that. And my thing is if every single person on this cast has had to pull Tiffany to the side and tell her about herself, about how she running her mouth too much and how she doesn't know what she's speaking on, and that eventually one person was going to be like, no, little bitch, stop running your mouth like you know me. Why is she shocked? Is it because it's Kiki? Is it because Kiki has a certain reputation of cussing pregnant ladies out and stealing shit? Like, it don't matter, baby girl. Like, and I feel like because Tiffany, didn't have the family dynamic that she's always been wishing for and hoping for, because, she was orphaned, all that. She's kind of projecting all of that onto Kiki, basically saying, like, you're not grateful for your family. She does not understand how hard having blood family is, because you feel like you can't trust them niggas half the time. So I honestly feel like Tiffany just needs to shut the fuck up and have this baby, because she's really getting on my nerves. Like, every season she's been on, someone's had to pull her card. And now because it's Kiki, everybody want to be all hooping and hollering and shit. No. She asked for it. And my whole thing is, didn't Tiffany start cussing first at the spa day? Didn't she say absolutely fucking not to Kiki? Did Kiki ever raise her voice or start cussing first? No, not that I saw. So Tiffany was the aggressor. Get the fuck out of here. Anyways, Tiffany says that she was surprised to see Mel and glad that she came, and she knows that Mel and Tisha haven't been in a good place. And Mel's like, and she just recently invited Tisha to Mariah's birthday party because their girls used to be so close. And then, of course, this was Mel's segue into talking about Martell and the party. So Tiffany was just like, she asked if Martell came. And I'm like, of course she had to ask her. And then Mel says, yeah, he came uninvited. And Tiffany looking stupid, like, what? So Mel says that she called Martell a few minutes before the party so that he could say happy birthday to Mariah. And then she kind of like mimics what he said on the phone. He's like, Mel, let me speak to you for a minute. And then basically saying, how are you really not going to invite the dad, but you inviting all these other people? And then Melody said that she hung up. And then Mel says that after the party, she tells Mariah that, she can call her dad so they can go hang out and all of that. And she said she called. And then she tells Tiffany to let you listen to this. So she starts to play a recording of Martell basically telling Mariah that he's not going to come see her that day. And I'm just thinking, so who was recording who, Melody Holt? Because apparently you had the whole internet thinking that it was Stormy who was recording you, when all actuality, that last episode of last season, I saw Destiny showing Martell and Chris Fletcher a recording or video or something of you talking about some you don't care about who he's dating. So who exactly is recording who? Is Melody recording herself and saying it's other people, or is it Destiny recording Melody and that's why she got kicked off the show and that's why she not want no more? Like, can somebody explain it to me, please? Thank you. I'm confused. Mel ends recording and says, you see why I laughed? Because it's funny. And she said that Martell made a huge deal for 20 to 30 minutes before the party started about how he should be able to see his daughter on her birthday. And then Mel says that's why she moves how she moves, because Martell is very manipulative. And then Melody says that she wishes that she had her children by a man, a real man, not a queen. And Tiffany's like, oh. And Mel says that she hopes that Tiffany will come to the tea. And I'm just like, hold on, wait. Don't skirt past the fact you just called Martell one of the girls. Don't skip over that. Like, you being real shady. He's such a queen now. Like, that came from the deepest parts of her soul. Like, she cannot stand that man. So Tiffany said that she'll go to the tea party, and Melody says that maybe this tea will help her communicate better with a narcissist and an asshole talking about Martell. And then Mel says that they can all bring a +1 and stuff. And Tiffany's like, well, with this group, +1 usually means backup. Is somebody bring a backup? And Melody looks so like, this is why people don't fuck with you, because you say the most ignorant shit out your mouth. Tiffany probably, Tiffany probably got bullied when she was younger for being light-skinned and all of this stuff, but still being half black. So she probably just feels like, all right, she needs to go on the attack before somebody attacks her. But what I need her to understand is you are on national television. People who are watching you are going to bully your ass more than anybody, like any of them other little kids used to do to you when you was younger. But what you cannot do is think that the people on the cast are not going to do the same thing. This bitch do not have no filter. Tiffany says whatever the fuck she want. Maybe she belong on Housewives of somewhere, because this energy is real evil. It's real envious. I don't like it. Like, I do not like her energy at fucking all, because she always got to have the last word. So we're with Kimmy and Maurice, and he's walking into the kitchen. And they exchange pleasantries. He sees what Kimmy's doing. And Kimmy asks if he got Monster squared away. And Maurice says, yeah, he has to get Monster dialed into this homework. And Kimmy says, yeah, she has to get him dialed into cleaning his room. I was like, oh boy, we starting off with the word shenanigans already. Maurice, like a dumbass, says, so you just tell him to clean his room and he just doesn't do it. And Kimmy says that's precisely what happens. And Maurice says, well, if you tell him to do something and he openly defies you and you just take it. And Kimmy looks and says, that's what you think I do? And Maurice is like, well, I'm just saying. And in the confessional, Kimmy says it's like Maurice is giving her a hard time about enforcing the rules with Monster when he's having just as difficult of a time. Maurice says that he knows that they are having the same issue with Monster. And he stumbles with his words and says that he's having problems with Monster. No, she's having problems. No, like we are, like they are having problems with Monster. And Kimmy's like, right, exactly, they both are. And Maurice says that at least he's trying to enforce the rules. And they both look away from each other real uncomfortably. And Maurice says, you know, baby steps. And Kimmy says, monster steps. That's the title of this episode, Monster Steps, because what the hell? Kimmy says that what she's saying is when Monster doesn't listen to her, Maurice needs to step in and kind of reinforce what she said. Like, duh, my nigga. He knows that she's the stepmom. She's the bonus parent. He's going to listen to his biological father more than he's going to listen to this lady. Maurice just don't know how to be a damn dad. And I was going to get into this later, but Monster probably don't want to be there with them. He wants to go home to his mother. Any kid who is not gonna listen to you, they're acting up in a way that you feel like it's acting up, it's because that something is wrong. They need to talk to Monster, and he probably wants to go home. He wants to go with his mother, because y'all have a lot going on down there. Too fucking much for a 15, 16-year-old. And yeah, Maurice feels like he needs to be with his dad, you know, as he going through high school. But nigga, you don't know how to be a dad, so what is he there for? Kimmy says that for some reason Maurice doesn't want to, you know, reinforce the rules. And Maurice says it's not like he doesn't back her up. And Kimmy says that's exactly what she's saying. And then Maurice says that Kimmy makes the rule, and then she's saying, you know, Maurice, I want you to enforce it. And I wanted to know if y'all noticed how, as they started talking about Monster, they turned on the water. I watched this episode twice, and I thought it was like an upload error when I first heard the water playing. But no, they turned the water on so that Monster could not hear their conversation. That right there, that proves that there's a huge issue in that household. If you feel like you can't even talk freely about this little boy and you got to turn the water on, yeah, Maurice does not know how to be the HOH. Not for real, because Kimmy has been saying this shit since the first season. Like, Maurice needs to do more. This is sick. Kimmy says that as a bonus parent, there are limits to what she's going to do, and Monster knows that. And then the confessional, Kimmy says that when you're disciplining other people's kids, it's always a fine line. And Maurice makes a face, and Kimmy says she knows that he doesn't like that sentence, but it still remains for her. And not just because she's his bonus parent. And Maurice says in the confessional, so you don't feel like you're Monster's parent. And I feel like he's always trying to put words in her mouth to always make it seem like she's saying something so much worse than what she is. And it's never like that. Maurice is such an asshole. But Kimmy says that she's absolutely feels like Monster's parent and that she loves him. This is why Kimmy had such an issue with Maurice wanting Monster to come move down there, because she knows that Maurice is not going to do the work that entails of taking care of a growing teenage boy. Kimmy has done this already, and she didn't want to do it again, but now she is, because she loves this man, and he's trying to basically sit here and say, well, you don't want to be a parent to my son? Hell no, she don't want to be a parent to somebody else's kid. She only doing this because she love you, but you can't even step in and reinforce the rules that you are basically telling her she needs to enforce, because she's your wife, and that is your son, and somebody need to tell the boy what to do if it ain't going to be him. Like, these Scott men are so backwards. If your dad stayed around with all 8 of y'all and you feel like you can't even just tell your damn son, your only child, to go clean his fucking room, what do you, like, how do you expect him to go out into the world and listen to other people? And that is something else that gets into another scene later on when he talks to Martell. But it's just baffling how he feels like Kimmy is going to do all the fucking work. Like, it does not work that way. In the confessional, Kimmy says she feels that Maurice and Kaya's rules and regulations as Monster's biological parents overshadow her own, and is actually a fact. And that is true. People do not like how you discipline their kids unless it's the same way they do. Or they just don't want you disciplining their kids at all. But this man just don't want to do no fucking work. That's what this is. But then Maurice says that he thinks this all started when her and Kaya's relationship wasn't that good, and Kimmy made a face, and Maurice says that Kimmy created a monster when she needed to be more hands-on with discipline. And Maurice asks if she disagrees with that, and Kimmy says, yeah, she does. And Kimmy says that Maurice is acting like her issue when it comes to reprimanding Monster is Kiowa, and it's not. Her real issue is with Maurice. Duh, my nigga. You trying to take responsibility off of yourself. It's not working like that. And because he can't stand being wrong or any Scott man being wrong, Maurice says he's going to call Kiowa. And Kimmy says that she doesn't really know why he's doing that. And Maurice says it's because this shouldn't even be an issue. And Kimmy agrees and says that it shouldn't be an issue for Maurice to back her up when it comes to his son not doing what she asked him to do. And then that's when Kiowa answered the phone. And because he's trying to be a smart ass, Maurice can't even explain why he's called Kiowa and says that he and Kimmy were having a conversation about discipline and Monster. And then he asked Kimmy if she wants to explain or say what it was that they were talking about. And Kimmy says that she doesn't know what he wants her to say because he's the one who wanted to make the phone call. Duh. Maurice says that he knows that Kimmy feels a way about disciplining Monster because of how Kiowa might feel. And Kimmy says that no, that's not what it is. And she really needs him to stop saying it that way. And Maurice says, okay, well, that's why he wanted her to say it. And Kimmy ignores him and exchanges pleasantries with Kiowa and says that she doesn't know why he called her, but they were just having a conversation about Monster not doing things that they have asked him to do. Kimmy asked Maurice to support her more, and he asked her why she doesn't become more stern with Monster. And Kimmy says, well, Maurice is the daddy, and he can help her do that because people don't like when you discipline their kids. And Maurice says that that's what he's talking about when he turned the phone around to look at Kiowa. And Maurice asked Kiowa if Kimmy has gotten to a place where Kiowa trusts her enough to discipline Monster. And Kiowa says absolutely, but she understands what Kimmy is saying. And Kimmy makes a noise in agreement like, I told you so. And Kiowa says that she appreciates the fact that Kimmy is concerned about how she may feel when it comes to disciplining Monster because that's important to her. So Maurice asks in a shady way, so you'd be okay with Kimmy treating Monster like Jalen? And I'm just thinking, how does Kimmy treat Jalen? Because Kimmy paid for Jalen's school so he could leave debt free, and Kimmy helped Jalen renovate his new house so he can live by himself. So how exactly does Kimmy treat Jalen that you want to feel like it's okay to compare? Like, oh, Maurice is a messy bitch. And Kiowa says no, she'd be okay with Kimmy treating Monster the way Kiowa herself would treat him. And Kimmy says that's exactly what she told Maurice. And Maurice, because he lost the conversation, he says, well, they'll just have to agree to disagree. And thanks Kiowa for her input. And that it looks like that she's a neutral in this situation. And Kimmy says no, Kiowa has made herself very clear. And Kimmy asks Maurice how this call is working out for him because it seems like Kiowa is agreeing with her. And Maurice hangs up the phone and they all say bye and giggle, and Kimmy giggles into the next scene of the show. So we're with Kiki and Stormy meeting up at a location, and they say their hellos and stuff. And Stormy asks Kiki if she's excited, and Kiki says she doesn't really know what they're there for. And Stormy says that they're going to be trying Reiki. And Kiki says that, oh, she's never done that before. And in the confessional, Stormy says that after all the energy at the spa day, she thought it would be a good idea to do Reiki with Kiki. And she thought that would be a perfect way to cleanse their energies. And that she wants to feel Kiki out because she feels like she might have misjudged her. So the spiritual healer introduces themselves and says that they'll be doing a energy transference today. And she mentions that, she grew up in the church being a child of God and stuff, but that the energy transference will be without touching them and will help open up their throat chakras and stuff. And Kiki looked a little stunned to speak when she mentioned that, but then Kiki asked if the healer could elaborate on how all of this ties into her being a child of God. It says that she's confused when it comes to the mixing of the crystals and chakras with Christianity, because she's heard that it could be blasphemous or something. The healer says that she understands, but people who say that haven't read the Bible thoroughly, because when you trust God, magical things happen. And I'm like, well, amen, church. That's what I'm talking about. But the healer says that she will begin to heal them with crystals and that you'll feel an electric current. And Kiki, trying to be funny, says that can she use the current to shock people? And Stormy looked a little annoyed, but the healer says that yes, if you aren't careful. And Kiki was like, oh, okay. Like, oh, she for real. Kiki in the confessional says that her pastor might not like this whole Reiki thing, but don't knock it till you try it. And then the healer begins to do her work on Stormy, and as she's, talking to Stormy, Stormy gets emotional, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, I felt that. I felt that in my chest. But the healer also goes over to do her work on Kiki and tells Kiki that her words are power. And in the confessional, Kiki says words do have power, and with her words, she tries to help people live the best life that they possibly can. And then the healer asks how they feel, and Kiki says she feels lighter, and Stormy says that she feels good. And then the healer leaves so that they can get into the real tea. Kiki says that she's normally skeptical about things like this, but she really enjoys the person that Stormy is. And Kiki says that she feels like she and Stormy have like personalities. And that's why that she couldn't really argue with Stormy at the spa day, because Stormy just kept reading her. And Kiki's like, she really couldn't be mad because she couldn't really respond. Stormy says that Kiki knows that her behavior wasn't to be offensive or anything, or to be mean and like all the cursing and stuff. And Kiki says that that's the same way that she is. And Stormy says that at least people aren't calling her ghetto. And Kiki says people are going to say whatever, and she mentions the whole other side of the tracks thing. And she's like, what is that? And she says that as long as Stormy knows that she's not ghetto, that's really all that matters. But she is the kind of person who wants things to be out in the open and to get emotions out just so they can talk about it. Kiki says that she didn't really like how things ended with Tiffany at the spa, and that she wants to be able to have a conversation without the screaming and cursing and name calling. And Stormy says that she can because Tiffany is pregnant. And Kiki says that she feels like if you want people to respect that you're a child, then don't put stuff out there while you're pregnant. And I'm sorry, I agree, because it's like, you only saying this because I can't put the pause on you because you're with child right now. But as soon as you drop that baby, we're going to fight. Like, ugh. And I know people don't agree or understand Kiki's logic sometimes, but I get it, because I'm sorry. Or maybe it's just because I don't like Tiffany's ass. I ain't never liked her. But after Kiki said that, Stormy looked real confused. And Stormy said that she talked to Big Court and said that Tiffany don't need to be arguing with Kiki because the baby will come out looking like Kiki, because that's like an old saying back in the day. And Kiki says that it would be amazing for Tiffany if her baby came out looking like her. And Stormy looked shocked but on the verge of laughing, and that was funny as shit, I'm not gonna lie, because Kiki think everybody would just have such a better life looking like her, and she's not an ugly woman, so I can agree. So we're at Scott Emporium with Maurice, and Martell's coming to visit him, just so they can chop it up about everything that happened at the birthday party. And they talk about credit scores and shit. And it's so funny how Maurice wants to give all this other help, but he can't even help his own fucking son. Shade, not shade. Take that however the fuck y'all want. I don't care. But then Maurice asks Martell, how it's been with the divorce, like, because he knows what it's like being divorced and trying to start over again. And Martell says, well, speaking of divorce, and because, that's the only segue he needed. And Maurice said, yeah, how's that going? Because he's just so interested. Martell says that things with the kids are good, but him and Mel, not so much. And then he explains what happened at the party and how, they was arguing or whatever. And then how Mel mentioned that she was going to call the police to escort him out. And then Maurice is like, well, what happened? What led up to her wanting to call the police? Like, were you fighting and yelling and stuff? And Martell's like, no, they was just arguing back and forth. And Maurice is like, well, he's just going to pray for them because, that's just tough. And you would never want the kids to be able to notice, what's going on with y'all. And then says that they'll just have to find their way back home. Like, okay, E.T. head ass nigga. Like, oh my goodness. And Martell is just like, yeah. Martell says, they're just going to have to figure it out regardless. Because Milani just turned 3, so they have a long road ahead of them. And then the confessional, Maurice says that he thinks that Martell is finally realizing how sensitive his situation is. And then Maurice says, anything within his control, he handles. But then he just let God deal with the rest of it. And Martell asks how Kimmy's doing. And Maurice says that she's doing good. She can see her spirit coming back and all of that. And then Martell asks about Monster. And Maurice says that he's trying to figure out motivation for Monster. And, like, all Monster has to do is clean his room, get good grades, and behave. And Martell asks that, if he asks Monster to clean his room in the morning, like, and if he does it. And I'm like, oh, Martell thinks this shit funny because he laughing. And Maurice is like, no, he doesn't do anything. Like, he don't be want to do none of his work. Maurice says that he looks at Monster through his eyes and that he sometimes feel envious of Monster because he looks at his life and then he just wonders, like, if I had this life at your age, at my age, where would I be? And Martell says that, you might be the same or worse. And Maurice was like, you think so? And what did I say? Maurice don't want to raise this little boy because he feel like this little boy got the fucking life and he just don't understand why he's not doing what he tells him to do. And it's because Monster wants to go home to his mother. Come on, y'all. Martell says that some spoiled kids become worse. And Maurice says that what he's trying to figure out with Monster is, like, what motivates him. And Maurice says that he'll take Monster's phone away and that he'll just adjust to it. And then Martell laughs. And then Maurice says that it's not like in the real world you can get a timeout, and then come back and figure it out. He says that he's scared for his son. And like I said, I just think that Monster misses his mom. And that Maurice says that he's used to have a dog named Peaches, and Peaches never listened. And then one day Peaches got hit by a car for not listening. And then Martell says, yeah, playing too much. And then Maurice says that he doesn't want society to run over his son for not heeding discipline. And then Martell says that, yeah, take care of that now. And then he asks how old Monster is. And Maurice says like 15, 16. And Martell says, yeah, he was bad as hell at that age. And Maurice asks, what did he do to kind of like cope with that? Martell says that he got into sports and ROTC. And Maurice asks, what was the structure? Like, was it the structure that helped him? And Martell says, yeah, because he didn't have motivation or structure at home, so he had to do it himself. And Martell says that it was all self-motivated. Even when, they're in the gym together and they see him going at it, that's all him doing it on his own. And Maurice says that the truth is that they'll never have it figured out 100%, and they're just going to do the best they can with what they got. Like, okay, Mariah Carey. And then Martell says, yeah, that's always just what he does. And then they just end the scene with Maurice looking confused as usual. Like, why does Maurice always have a bewildered expression on his face? Like, he just don't know what's going on. Okay, this was a filler scene, but whatever. So now we're at the shit show of a tea party, and they're showing Mel's setup for it. And in the confessional, Mel says that they're all black business owners, and that she thought it would be a nice idea to have an etiquette coach to help them speak respectfully to one another, because she thought that Tiffany was going to go into labor, and Tiffany didn't care because she was giving the lips right back to Kiki. And then Stormy jumped in, and then they showed a clip from the spa. Mel says she told the ladies that they can bring a +1, so maybe they can all learn to act like ladies together. And then the coach and Mel discuss what will happen, and as the ladies walk in, Melody will be greeting them and stuff. And then Kimmy walks in, and Mel kind of does the fake squealy thing, and hi, hello Kimberly, welcome to my tea party, yada yada. And then Tisha comes in after, and then Tiffany, and then Kiki, and then everybody else. In the confessional, Tisha says she thinks her being at the tea with Kiki and Mel shows how that they're all trying to put the past behind them and move forward, and that she thinks that everybody is just ready to have fun like they used to. So Melody and the etiquette coach are discussing how they're waiting for one more person as Stormy and her mom walk in. And then in the confessional, Stormy says that her mom has had her feelings about Melody for a while. And then they show the clip of Stormy's mom saying that she didn't like Mel's energy. And then Stormy says that she's hoping that by bringing her mom to the tea, that she can see their dynamic and just see how that they can move forward. The etiquette coach introduces herself and why they're there, and then she and Melody go to get the tea so they can pour it for the ladies. As Melody was going around the table, she asks if everybody wants some or whatever. She gets to Tiffany. Tiffany says she don't want none. Melody's like, just let it sit. I don't want to hear that you don't want no tea. And then they begin taking directions from the coach. And then Melody gets into how they all met up last time at the spa and that there was a lot of yelling and not respectful communication. And then they show the clips from the spa. And then Mel asks what they can do to make sure that everybody is comfortable and around each other and that they all have respectful communication going on. The coach says that etiquette is about how you make people feel when being around you. And Stormy says that she likes that because she curses a lot and that, sometimes the things that she wants to say doesn't come off cross as the most ladylike. And the coach says that, just know that there's always somebody looking up to you. And Stormy says that, yeah, she knows that, but that's why she wants to tell them to just say whatever it is you want. The etiquette coach says that when you use curse words, it means that you're lacking vocabulary. And Stormy and Kiki were kind of like, nah, that's not necessarily true. And Stormy says that she likes those words. And then she uses an example of because if she liked that shirt, she likes that motherfucking shirt. Which I understand, because curse words, they help you get your point across. And people might not like that, but it's the truth. And the coach kind of basically just says, well, if that's how people know you and that's how you roll, and if you like it, then I love it. But then Nail says, cut the bullshit. She feels like there's some energy in this room and it ain't right. And what's up with the women in this group? And Tiffany kind of looks like, oh, she's shocked, like, damn. And then Melody is looking a little like statuesque. She looking like, oh, shit. Nail says, what's the meat of the issue? Because she knows, most of the women in this group, and she feels like that there's tension and shit. And Melody's just kind of like, well, what energy you been feeling? Nail says that she thinks that there's some energy between Melody and Stormy. And Miss Betty says, do you think it's between Mel and Stormy or Mel and Stormy's mother? And people are kind of like, oh, shit. And Nail says, well, she doesn't know Stormy's mother. Miss Betty says, well, that'll be her. And Miss Betty says that there is a little something there. And Nail says, well, that's what we're here to talk about, basically. My thing is how does Nail know that there's some tension between Stormy and Melody when Melody says later on that she don't have no problem with Stormy? But if Nail's the only one that Melody kind of talked to, how does she know specifically that Stormy had an issue with Mel? Or vice versa? Like, yeah, something not sitting right there. Because obviously Melody says something to Nail and she just try to act like, it really wasn't shit. But there's a problem there. As Stormy is trying to soothe her mother, Mel asks, well, what happened between them? And Miss Betty says that it's something on social media. And Stormy is just kind of like, oh, well, you just gonna go straight for it, huh? And then a miscommunication on who is a part of the conversation kind of goes about, because Miss Betty's just like, well, somebody's in this situation who don't got nothing to do with it, talking about Nail. And Nail is just kind of like, oh, you talking about me, basically? And Miss Betty's like, yeah. And Nail was like, well, I never said that I was, a part of the situation. And then Stormy was just kind of like, well, Miss Nail, if you could just let my mom explain, she will, but I just feel like she won't because, you're talking. Stormy's basically like, just please allow her mom to speak because Nail might not be privy to everything that was going on, and that's okay. And Nail says, well, that she's a big girl and she understands that she got it. Coach kind of hints to the fact that while Stormy was talking, Nail let her speak. And Stormy says, yeah, she did let me speak, but I just didn't want to forget what I had to say. And Coach says, yeah, but it was still rude. Mel says that she was asked about Stormy on stage, and she doesn't know if Stormy remembers, but she says that Stormy represents everything that Love and Marriage Huntsville stands for, and that she wouldn't just give that compliment to just anyone that she has an issue with. Mel's usual spiel. Mel says that she knows that Miss Betty said she had an issue and she wants to know what it is. Miss Betty says that it has something to do with a secret recording. And then I think they show a clip of Stormy talking about the secret recording, and then showing a clip of Destiny sharing with Martell and Chris Fletcher a recording of something that Melody said. Miss Betty says that people took that it was Stormy recording Melody, and that at any point Melody could have said that it wasn't her, but she didn't do that. And Melody says that people say a lot about her all day, every day, but she can apologize to Miss Betty if she was offended by a tweet that she did. Then Miss Betty says, now let me shut you down with this. Now shut up. And that was the whole part that I had seen, because I thought she was really going to get into Mel's butt, because that's why I was excited about this tea party. But it was Kiki who actually got in Tiffany butt. Miss Betty says that her direct issue with Mel is how she does things, and Mel not shutting it down was the problem. She has an issue when she feels like, people are trying to diminish what her daughter has done. And when all Mel had to do was say that, no, it wasn't Stormy. Stormy didn't do it. And when Mel didn't do that, and now she wants to apologize, but all she had to do was say it wasn't Stormy that did it. Mel said was the person who was at my house didn't do it. You know how Mel likes to play word games, but she was like, well, wasn't that after people ran with it and said that it was Stormy? And Betty says, yes, but you made it so vague that it could have been anyone that you was talking about, and that she just needs Mel to be direct. And Mel says, well, she apologized and she didn't know that they had an issue. Like, that was a real apology, okay? Kiki says that, well, she had a grievance that she wanted to put on the table, and Coach is just like, oh, I ain't done, y'all got more. And then in the confessional, Kiki says that it's been a while since she's seen Tiffany, and that she left unsettled by the way things ended at the spa, and that she was confused and she wants to confront Tiffany about her lies. And Kiki says that she feels like she should talk to Tiffany and ask her what the hell she's trying to do. And then Mel's like, no, we're gonna be pretty, we're gonna talk pretty. And then Kiki was like, nah, you right, my bad for cursing. Tiffany says that all that happened was that Tisha came to her house to invite her to the spa thing, and she told Tisha that she doesn't have any problems with anybody, she's cool, and that she doesn't entertain any BS. And then, it got all tense. And then she was like, mess, or whatever. And then Kiki says, yeah, you just spew it. And then Tiffany says, the whole under the bus thing. And my thing is why do you think that you're that important to Kiki? Why do you think that Kiki would really spend her time trying to dog you and talk about you when you are the one that's actually doing that? You're more pressed about Kiki than Kiki is pressed about you. And I just feel like Tiffany just be inserting herself into drama just to say that somebody's trying to come at her. And like I said, this is probably from when she was little and she felt like everybody used to pick on her, so she want to start a fight first or get on the defense. When she inserted herself into something that had nothing to do with her and had something to do with whole two cousins. And I get it, it's a show and they want mess, but I get so annoyed with people having opinions. Like, this social media thing has made it so hard to deal with comments and stuff, because everybody's allowed to have an opinion, whether you like it or not, whether it's hurtful or nice. And Tiffany just doesn't understand, like, girl, you need to have a fucking filter. But you've met Kiki, and Kiki doesn't have a filter either. So Tiffany's met her match. And I don't care if nobody on the cast don't like it. Somebody need to put Tiffany in her fucking place. If y'all not going to get her off the show, then Kiki's going to be there to put her in her place, period. And Tiffany's such a bitch, and she's just so rude. She never once even looked at Kiki while she was explaining any of this. She looked at Kiki when Kiki started talking, but as Tiffany was explaining herself, she didn't once look at her. She looked at the coach. But she says that she sees how Kiki has treated Tisha, and she doesn't know her all that well. And she doesn't know if, Kiki would do that to her, basically. And that's all she can go off of in regards to meeting Kiki. And Kiki is like, well, let me educate you on knowing of someone. And Tiffany's like, nah, I don't need to learn anything from you. And Kiki says, oh, yes, you do. You poor, pitiful soul. She was coming at this girl neck, and I'm just glad. I'm here for it. Kiki says that she and Tiffany have had many exchanges. And then in the confessional, Kiki says that she's known Tiffany for years. Her son used to play on Big Lou's baseball team. And she just doesn't know why she's lying. So Kiki says to Tiffany that, Tiffany's met her mom and they talked for a whole game. She's met her daughter and she's met her in-laws. And Tiffany said that, Kiki said that Tiffany told Tisha that Kiki has always introduced herself as someone else's friend. And Kiki's like, she's never done that. And then Tiffany kind of had a little smirk on her face like, girl, you lying. Tiffany says that Kiki has been introduced as Mel's friend, but that she should have introduced herself as Tisha's cousin first, basically, and not just Mel's friend. Tiffany says that she knows that, Kiki's son was on the baseball team and he didn't work out. That was clear shade. But she's never sat down and had community with Kiki. And Kiki says stop lying because she went on a whole crusade to help her find her father. Tiffany says that Melody invited Kiki to the surprise meetup or whatever, and she doesn't know about a whole crusade or even a follow-up. But Melody scheduled the meetup, and Kiki was there by her surprise, and then they showed the clip or whatever. And Tiffany says that it wasn't much of a communication after that. And Kiki says, yeah, you're right. It wasn't. Coach walks over to Tiffany and tells her she thinks she should calm down because she's pregnant. Tiffany says that she's good. And my whole thing is, fuck that lady, bruh. She want to be there. She want the smoke. She want to be there and get it. Like, fuck. But anyways, Kiki says that she still helped out. And Tiffany asked if she followed up. And Kimmy asked the same thing. And my thing is, Kimmy, please. This ain't got shit to do with you. Just shut up right now. And Kiki looks at Kimmy, was like, well, did she? It's her dad. And then Kiki, being shady, says, and yes, she's always known who her father was. And then everybody was kind of like, whoa, what would you say? That was kind of a low blow. And then, Kiki apologizes, and then the episode ends. What Kiki said might have been a low blow, but I don't really give a fuck because Tiffany's been doing this shit since she got on the show, so it's her fucking turn. Anyways, if you guys like the review, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.